Well, it's a good morning to our co-host in the UK, and none other than Andrena, Forrest, and it's my privilege to also welcome you on the show. But without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Andrena because this will be her last uh, journey on the radio. She's stepping aside as a co-host. So, without further ado, Andrena, and you can play up and do whatever you want.
Oh, I wish you'd told me that before. I haven't. Now I got to have to think about it. Welcome everybody, and good day, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today it's the 13th of November 2025, and today it's my great privilege to have Aunty B on the show. So welcome, Aunty B, or Michelle. It's really lovely to have you and see you.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here, and especially today and in the timing. And thank you so much for having me here.
Well, I'm really looking forward to your sharing. And being this is my last one, and I'm talking with friends this week, I was thinking I've been doing it for 4 years. If you say average 50 shows a year, gosh, that's like 200 people or thereabouts. And it's like just incredible, which has been a great privilege. Anyway, we can talk about that a little bit later. So, yeah, so when I spoke to you and invited you, I had no idea you were going to be my last guest of the show. So I'm very privileged to have you as the last guest. Yeah, synchronicity works in amazing ways. Anyway, so where do we start here? I've seen some of your channelings, your words, your pictures, and I've listened to prayers and all different things that you've been doing. I thought, oh, it's really lovely. I'd love you to come on the show and share. And I know you've worked alongside many elders, many nations, and you're all about the natural law and new ways of working and helping humanity. So, and all about us remembering our sovereign gifts and who we are, and that we've forgotten. So it's like remembering. So I was just wondering, where would you like to start? So would you like to start at the very beginning? Because I know you're from Western Australia, and even I said to you, gosh, are you from New Zealand? Because you've got sort of a twang. So perhaps it's something to do with being in Western Australia.
Yeah, quite possibly. Although I've lived on the East Coast now for about 10 years. And then also I do a little bit of work in connecting with the Maori elders and have quite a few friends from New Zealand as well. So maybe I'm just privileged to be able to take on some of their beautiful. So yes, I am a mixed race in the sense of I am Noongar woman and a Nyamal woman, which is from the southwest of Western Australia, with blood lineage to the Pilbara, the top of the Pilbara near Marble Bar area. And on the English side, it came with the first settlers. And I have been very privileged to have been able to walk both paths. And even though a lot of our Aboriginal heritage was denied within our family in order to stay safe, really, because even in my lifetime, the missions were still operating. So as a baby, you would be taken away and put into a prison camp, really. And having grown up white, but I was recognised very young by the elders of the area, and so they nurtured me and shared with me a lot of their culture and traditional ways, and especially I had a great privilege of walking with Aunty Brenda, who is a healer or unheard. And she would, work with her for 5 years, and she taught me a lot of what I know. And then working with some of the other elders as well, which then sort of brought me over to the East Coast and meeting a lot of elders, and particularly around law, which is sometimes working within the invisible realms and the healing aspects and the dreaming and the and weaving all of those together. So that's the beginning of my journey.
Wow. I know you've got so much to share, so I'm just going to hand it over to you because, like I said, you've brought through such amazing work and sharing, and I know so many people love your work and follow you. So yeah, just keep going, just and share some of the, like we were talking about the ants and the different things with nature. I mean, all of these things are so powerful, and people sort of don't give a lot of respect to the ants. And because I've had flocks of pigeons out here at the front this week, absolutely flocks. I've never seen so many pigeons. And I think, well, we love the little robin and we love the blackbird, but we don't give much thought to the pigeon because he's sort of a big bulky bird and he makes a lot of noise when he takes off. But they've all got their part to play in nature, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. Like they just in that we are all connected as a humanity, for us, they are part of our family too. So all of the animals or all of the fauna, the mountains, the creeks, the waterways, everything is kin to us. And it is very integral to how we live, because it's about being in harmony and caretaking all of our kin, not just ourselves. And humanity these days has been conditioned over time to sort of take care of itself and make sure they've got the home and the comforts of life, but often not done in partnership with the earth and with all the animals as well. So yeah, so what we were sharing just before it came on was the fact that this was your last show, which is about death and rebirth and new doorways opening. And I certainly have worked in that way a lot with people, either assisting people through the deathing process, what we call sorry business, or otherwise helping people to death the old ways that are not necessarily working for them anymore. So, and how that links in is sometimes with our totems. So depending on country and lineages, so my mother's lineage goes up through Nyaki country to a place called Calabaran, and there one of their totems is the bull ant. And because it's a burial place, you can't bury the bodies in the ground, it's too hard. So the traditional way was to go and put them on top of the rocks, which are like monoliths, and the bull ants would then come in and strip the flesh. So it was very much a part of death and rebirth. And then from there you go and gather the bones, and they would often be buried within a tree. And and that's what I love about traveling around to different countries, because I'm currently in Gubbi country, and I just wish to even start by acknowledging the land that I'm sitting upon now, and the ancestors and the wisdom keepers, just as I acknowledge my ancestors, but also yours as well, because it's about coming back to the original self, the original one that remembers how to live in harmony with all. And so even on this country here, they have a very similar practice where they buried their the bones of their ancestors in the trees here. And so, I've been on a bit of a treasure hunt with some of the sacred sites and beautiful sacred places here that have been long forgotten, but are just really waiting for us to acknowledge them so that they can reactivate and awaken just like people do. And when people then come to those places, that land, the beingness of that becomes alive again. And then we will understand why the ancestors would go to these places, because they will receive healing directly from the land. they will find the places that are transmission places where all of a sudden you can hear the stars. You can hear the star people. And we've forgotten a lot of these ways. So, yeah, hopefully that sort of leads into some questions, and I can share a little bit more for you. I've got so much.
No, just share away. But I know, because I've travelled quite a bit in Australia, and I've worked with the Aboriginals in different sacred lands doing ceremony and all sorts of things, and I'm still part of walking in the footsteps of the ancestors, and they came over recently to Ireland, so it was a lovely gathering. So, and it's just so lovely when you connect with these people and you're all of the same intention, you know, when you go is to honor the land and the beings and what have you. So and I know I couldn't get over the size of some of the ant hills over there. I have never seen anything like it in my life. Yeah, it's just incredible. And Carol was over once, and we were going along somewhere, and she was stood on an anthill. She didn't realize, and she'd walked over. So she ended up doing an ant dance. It was just so funny. Funny at the time. But yeah, I mean, that was just an average one. But and some of the, like you say, the size of the ants, oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. So I would love you to share more stories like that, because nature is so important, and a lot of us are remembering our roots, our ancestors, and yeah, there's some, I mean, if you know, you've got to see an anthill like some of these, it's just like, wow. And like, I know I've seen a video with the network of ants, like weaving and just lines, and oh my God, incredible. It's just, you know, but people don't give thought like to the humble little ant, but they're all playing their part in the bigger picture. So share some more.
Beautiful. Well, as you were saying that, I was just tuning in and asking what I could be the voice for, because right. I feel that's been one of my gifts and abilities, to be the voice for the beings of this land, the spirit of the land. And often people don't know how to listen to that. So it's almost to be a translator. And the reason why it is so essential for all of us at this particular time, when we're going through massive shifts and changes, and particularly at this time between now and the end of the year, the importance of being really connected with nature and making sure that you're grounded and that you're deeply listening. So you probably heard of the term duddery, which means to deeply listen, and not just with the ears, but it's with all of your senses. And one of those things that, you know, I was taught at the very beginning was that we never meditate with our eyes closed, because then we miss and don't see all the visitors, the messengers, the way that the wind interacts with us, what comes across our path, because it is part of the deep listening. And all of us could really greatly benefit at this time to spend a little bit of time in each day just truly being still and listening with all of your senses, because that will then turn on, you know, we get told about a sixth sense, but we have 12 senses, like the sense of distance, the sense of space, the sense of the momentum that you would need to, for instance, to throw a spear or a boomerang and hit a kangaroo. And a lot of people have lost these skills and abilities because they don't know how to read the elements and nature and to watch the way that things move. So spending time in nature really helps us to connect in with and see our own nature and really start to remember. So what's coming forward at the moment, I just spent some maybe 5 or 6 weeks in the area of the Glasshouse Mountains, which is just south of here and just north of where Jeff is. And these incredible mountains, there's a beautiful, which is part of volcanic plugs, and there's a creation story that goes along with that and how they were created. But that's probably not my story to share, but I can share my story in connecting in and meditating with them each and every day to be able to receive their messages. And these beings that are these mountains, the mountains hold a very similar vibration and frequency to our bones. Okay, so they are like the bones of our body. And when we think of the spirit of the land, we too, our human form is our land. And that's why we're ascending or inscending, we're landing into us all that is coming through from the cosmos. And this is helping us to be able to remember who we are. And so when I spent time with these beautiful mountains, and you can see some there, they helped me to remember the history of Australia and this land and our planet across the eons of time, before there was human history, in a sense, and the roles that they have played, not just as geology or formations, but as living beings and technologies that hold certain frequencies, they have certain songs and harmonics that sing through them. My experience, it may not be the same for others, but when I actually spend time in and amongst them, for me it feels like I walk across the belly of a beautiful being and their legs are sticking up. And so they're all connected as if they are one being. And very connected in through Uluru, and also the song lines, and also the stars and the Seven Sisters dreaming. So they are reminding us this time of our gifts and abilities and who we are as galactic beings, you know, not just as humans, and our connections through the star people. And for Aboriginal people, and certainly in our culture, and when I say our culture, because we've got 250 odd different you know, different peoples across Australia, but in our creation stories, you know, we're very much connected with the stars, and that has certainly been what has been coming through for me, very particularly in the last 12 months. And that's been a lot of the writings and the sharing that I've had, because I'm receiving messages from what is coming in through the stars and helping us to connect in with a greater picture and start to remember, you know, our full DNA, and that we are 12-strand DNA beings, and some of it that has been closed down and we haven't got those full abilities. But once you have the realization of that truth, you can start to call forth those things to awaken within us. And now we're getting a whole lot of cosmic energy that's coming in through the CMEs, through the suns, with our interstellar objects that are coming in to visit, that are bringing in frequencies that are tuning up everything, they're shifting, the Schumann resonance, and also the frequencies in our own bodies. So it's like getting a electromagnetic, or more so a photonic tune-up, so that our bodies come more into our crystalline form, where we will no longer have water flowing through our bodies, but plasma. This is what we're evolving into. And that's been part of my journey since the beginning, that the elders, when they asked, they taught me the traditional ways and healing and law, but they always said, you need to remember the old ways, but you'll always be evolving into the new ways, because you're here for new way walking, or the new dreaming. So it's perfect that your program is called the New Dreaming, because I'm essentially now really stepping into what I'm here to be, and to hold and to remember within myself, and reactivate this land, because then when I take this land across the land, then it activates a resonance field, and these technologies within the earth start to come back online. So any questions or anything that arises from that? And if not, I'll continue on.
No, I was thinking, because I've got two beautiful soul sisters over from Australia, Vicky and Wendy, and we've been on I've certainly been on a trip this last couple of weeks to say, I've been to Stonehenge, I've been to Avebury, I've been up the Tor, over to Corfe Castle. So we've been on the sacred land sites, and so we came back here yesterday, and Vicky's not been here on the farm, so she was loving all the animals. And I said, I can't meditate here. I can't sit with my eyes shut. There's just so much beauty all around. I've got all the trees and the colours and the odd bird and what have you. It's just like open-eyed meditation. And I said to people, well, you don't have to sit there for hours. Everybody's different. Some people can sit for hours. I can't. I know. I like to just see what's going on. Don't like to miss anything. And then I have a little, I've got an amethyst geode outside, and I have a little robin comes in the morning, so I throw out little seeds for him there. But yeah, so I always get little visitors, and then and the birds, like I said about the flocks, there's the different messengers that come in, and I acknowledge all the little creatures and what have you. But the only ones I wasn't very partial to in Australia was the God, I can't even think of the bloody, mosquito, I couldn't think of his name then. And the times I've sort of just been about to go off to sleep, and then you're, I think, oh my God, I got to get him, where is he? And yet, they've got a nasty bite, and they've been partial to my blood when I was over there. And I know we went to the Glasshouse Mountains for New Year, for the first year I was over there, and got my hands out taking lots of pictures. And then when we come back, oh, my hands were full of muzzy bites. Oh my God. Yeah, so they were not my favorite insect, I have to say.
Yes, well, I can understand that. Your mosquitoes, the ticks, and the leeches, they all hold a very similar message. And this is all about taking a blood, which is our life force energy, and how we flow and circulate amongst people and the land. So when you get attacked a lot by mosquitoes or anything that's blood sucking, it's usually showing you that your energetic field is open, or you've left open boundaries in which others come in and take your life force energy, or otherwise you are giving your life force energy away. And that ties in very particularly with sovereignty, because sovereignty is a big issue around the world at the moment in different countries. And I know certainly through the Aboriginal people here, that I've come across at least, you know, maybe 10 different forms of ways in which people are trying to claim their own sovereignty again from the government and different institutions, and, you know, through the courts and things like that, because you've got law, LAW, and then LORE. And people often ask me where I stand in regards to all of that, because I never fight against anything. Because when you fight, you are adding your life force energy into the very thing that you wish to change. So it's the same with the sovereignty. So a lot of those different ways of doing it makes sense to do things at a physical level, but you have to do it energetically first. And most people haven't learned how to be sovereign within their own energetic field. And so mosquitoes and those animals are really great messengers around your own sovereignty, and especially around life force energy. Most people don't realize that, you know, to really truly understand that what you give your attention to, what you speak about, what you entertain in your field, you are contributing your life force energy each day. And the way that I like to explain it is, imagine you were giving a budget of $100 per day, and each time you're spending $1 depends on what you're interacting with. So how much of that money did you spend in social media? Now you can interact with social media from a conscious perspective and not actually contribute any of your money. But if you get drawn into someone's drama, if you get drawn into defending a position around something, you don't realize that you then start to unconsciously open the wallet and start contributing money to that very thing that that you want to change. So it's learning to be very neutral in and around, and observe what's going on, and very consciously choose what you're standing for, what you're giving your life force energy to. And it's about investing that life force energy back into your own land, because when you can get a human being that holds a resonance with such a purity and coherence in their field, which means they're in alignment. They're in alignment with what they think, they say, they do, they act. The way they live their life is an alignment. It's kind of like the crusted energy. On this level, at a human level, you're doing all the things, okay? Or being all the things, really. And then you attune. You're attuning with your source, creator, God connection, whatever it is that you call it. And when you really get this target, then the life force that flows through you is very potent. And if you are then contributing it to everything outside of yourself and not into the dreaming that is coming through you from your own soul map, then you don't realize you're wasting a whole lot of life force energy. And, you know, and then people often wonder, well, why can't I create what I really am here to be and do? I don't feel like I'm on purpose, or I'm following my mission, or, you know, I'm just exhausted all the time. And that's because they're not investing that life force energy into their own land and being according to the map that our soul has brought forth for us. So that's how, you know, some of our animal messages can really help fine tune where are we wasting our energy, where are we unconsciously. It's kind of like we might be focused on the front door and saying, you know, who are we entertaining, who are we bringing in to be able to interact with, but don't realize the back door is still open. And that's usually some of your unconscious programming or conditioning that you've taken on from outside of yourself and is still running within your system.
Yeah, thankfully that was many years ago, but and it makes total sense in what you're saying. But we're not taught in schools or to go within and to be quiet and to be still and to pick up on different things around. You know, it's been like a whole learning curve for people at different stages of life. And I suppose it's only when they become more aware or more awake that they pick on like up on energies or sensations or going somewhere, you know. But it's, you know, if you, I always think, God, if you've got the little ones at school, they come in from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different dramas. And if you get them all in the morning and get them just to do a little 5-minute meditation to bring them all in together, to quieten them down, and, you know, and get them to do a little bit of drumming and all these sort of things, you know. But like, we're way behind in bringing these things forward, and it's not what the government would suggest you do. I remember I worked in a mental health unit, and different patients were coming and going, and I used to say, could I bring my drum in and just go around, or some different no way, sorry, you can't do that here. But I thought, you know, I had to do it energetically clearing. But all these little things really make a difference, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly do. And I'd like to challenge even that thought that there isn't enough going on. Part of my background was I was a police officer for 17 years. And so within that, I was working within the system. I also was very awake and attuned. I was fortunate that a lot of these gifts and abilities came from childhood. I just knew how to disguise them or close them down or not speak too much from them, so it didn't freak people out around me. But I certainly utilised those gifts and abilities, and especially as a police officer. And part of that was I was given the position to work within the schools. So in 2000 until 2005, I worked within the schools, and it was a fantastic time in that I integrated not just lessons around the law courts and, you know, what your rights and responsibilities are and how to drive a car and, you know, all the laws, etc. But I started to integrate all the energetics as well. And the amazing thing is that the teachers and the schools loved it, because they could see how much the children would respond to it. And so eventually I got to the point where some of the schools would allow me to do every single class within their school. And so from kindy, you know, one class, I'd be in a kindy class with all the kids around me on the floor, and we would be doing meditations and connecting in with a higher consciousness and helping them to find ways to feel safe, to know, to listen to their body, not just to what adults tell them, because often abuse in that often comes from people they know and trust. So how do they listen to their own intuition, their own gut instincts? And we're teaching them things at that young age, and the things that would come out of their mouths at time. I'm sure I picked up a few jaws off the teachers off the floor, because they couldn't believe what the wisdom that was coming out of these children. And then the next class I'd be doing year 12, and I just have to adjust the language, but it would hit them in the same way. And really it's about bringing truth. And I think that what helped me is that I followed what source, you know, I call it my the source of my connection, what source guided me to do. No matter what other people thought of me or might have judged me, you know, of course I had police officers that were making fun of me, but I can also guarantee that every single one of those police officers were in my office at some stage having a reading with me, or having a session, or having energetic healing, because they noticed that when they worked with me, things would work out. I knew how to change the energetics in a situation. So if we're going into a domestic and everyone's fighting, we're not having them turn on us and all of a sudden we're getting assaulted. I knew how to take the energy out of that. And all of us have the capacity in different ways. We're all different, but we all have gifts and abilities that are dormant and are ready to be awakened. And, you know, some of those people that have had a really challenging life and a very limited viewpoint or experience, they haven't been able to access the invisible and the healing and other things. You know, later on down the track, you never know with what might happen at a greater cosmic level, which all of a sudden they'll wake up like that. It's just that some of us did the hard yards because it was about learning and giving feedback to source creation about its creation into this field here and what is working and what isn't working. So, you know, I was doing that back in the 2000s and, you know, and eventually got to the point where I had 70 police officers that were sitting around me and, you know, I was given permission by the hierarchy to do some de-stressing exercises and different things with them. And it was incredible, the shifts and changes that came from that. But I'm sure every healer, every person who's done breath work or has done different forms of healing and modalities have all had incredible results and things that, you know, that seem miraculous. And the next level, the next stage as we move into the fifth density is actually around taking all that we've learned and applied it with their own being. It's no longer about being the healer for another. It's about being an example of it so others can find their own healing within themselves. And, you know, that's a bit of a shift and change for those of us who have been trained as healers and, you know, got all these extraordinary skills. And it's all of a sudden we've become defunct in that. But it's taking us back to listening deeply within ourselves and allowing another level of remembering to come forth because we're learning how to do it in frequency, in resonance, in harmony with nature. And the incredible things that I loved, you know, and here's some beautiful photos of different ceremonies I've been in and incredible land that we've worked with, that we've awakened. What would happen is that when we took people to these places that have been used for thousands of years for healing places and birthing places and ceremony, is it doesn't matter what your belief system is. It doesn't matter if you're completely closed off. They would have a direct experience with the land that would awaken a memory and a knowing within them, and often, you know, quite profound tears and like instantaneous healing just by being with the land, not having a process being facilitated, nothing at all, just them being. And this is what is possible when we work with nature and we remember how to acknowledge it and honor it and caretake it and steward through its gifts and abilities, just like we're learning how to be that within ourselves.
And like, you know, when I said about different schools, you know, if more and more did like little meditations, little drummings and different sharings and about the stars and things like that. And I know there are lots of teachers and people in different jobs and roles, even though they said, well, you can't do that, you do it your own way quietly, because you just know that that's what you're about, that's what you've come to do. And, you know, I know there's so many rules and regulations, and we're now in the greatest time of history, and everything is moving so fast and ramping up now. It is the Great Awakening, which is fabulous. But yeah, like there's many people that are, you think they're closed, but they're doing what's right for them, for their soul's journey, you know. And I've you know, in the past, I thought, oh God, wake up! Don't you realize? Or you're playing the same old record or something. And then, but you know, it's been a big lesson in me standing back and think, okay, well, this is where they're at. I just need to honor their journey and step back, and I can help whoever I need to help when they need my help, sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of people who are in very different jobs, who are magical beings that are creating change from within. And sometimes it's not by what they do, or oftentimes not what they're doing, is who they're being. And the more that they can consciously acknowledge that, it's almost like turning the dial up so that you become the lighthouse within, you know, sometimes a very dark environment. And, you know, it's funny that when I was a child, my parents asked me, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said that I wanted to be a spy. and they were a bit horrified by that idea.
I bet.
Probably, oh, she's going to go and sleep with all these men to get their secrets or something. And really, I realized I have been a spy my entire life. You know, even as a child and being at high school, I was aware of things that, you know, friends and that around me weren't. And I might not necessarily talk about it or share, but I would maneuver. It would change the way that I would interact with things. And, you know, then being a police officer was a great, you know, example of how I was often put into extraordinary positions, undercover work. I'm the only female that's ever worked in a totally male-dominated, specialized area. I got sent to do like extraordinary training, and I just got picked for things. I never applied for anything. I was always chosen and put into it. So I can see at a level I was being put into those scenarios because of who I was being and the way in which I approached it. And you know, and was creating change from within, and went into the entrepreneurial world. And I then got drawn into a lot of business trainers, particularly that work with big audiences around how to transform. And at the time, in the early days, really starting to integrate a lot of the spiritual practices, you know, how to create abundance and all of those sort of things. But finding how a lot of them weren't actually in integrity. They are great at talking the talk and speaking it up. And, you know, a lot of things haven't changed at a level, but more people are becoming aware of that you have to walk your walk. There's no point saying being this person and show up in these ways and this is how to activate your charisma and then treat your people not very well. You know, and not treat your environment well, and just consume constantly, and coming from a place of greed instead of what is it that you're here to contribute? What are you here to make a difference with? So, you know, really, I had a great privilege of being a spy in lots of different areas. In the government, I've worked in corporations, I've been into mining, I've been into tourism, I travelled all over Australia, and, you know, and even in the elders space and in and around law, I really got to see those law elders that have had, you know, extraordinary privilege of having very traditional teachings and activations and initiations into energies and magic, in a sense, and then use and abuse that for money, or use and abuse it for power. And, you know, it's a little disheartening to see that. But I can see my role was just to continually hold a coherent field within myself, and to hold that integrity as an example for others, so that the audience and others could start to realize that just because someone's been given the title of elder, or they've claimed themselves as an elder, it doesn't mean that they are necessarily a good human being. And so what do you give your energy to? You know, choose to invest it into yourself. You may learn some beautiful ancient wisdom. You may see some extraordinary things. But at the end of the day, do not give your energy and your power away to anybody else who is perceived to be the authority. And so once again, we're coming back to the message of sovereignty.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying, because like being a spy, I hadn't thought about it like that, because like in the year 2000, my sister and I had a funeral business, so we were dealing with a lot of heavy energies. And then like a few years after that, then I worked in a men's prison, and I was there for a good few years, and I loved it. And I was right in the center. I was in the hub, and I knew I was there like as a lighthouse, but never give it any more energy. I was doing a job, and that was it. And then like the same in the mental health, and you know, people come up sharing things, and you listen, and so people are doing that in so many different ways now, without realizing that they're holding that space for other people, without having to put their hands on them or give them healing or give them a hug. You know, your presence now is enough for your energies to do whatever they need to do around these people, or wherever you are on different sacred lands.
Absolutely. And then there's even another level. So if you think about all the places you've been and where you've worked, and although at a level you understood who you were, but now you probably realize at a greater level, call all of those moments from the past and future into this now moment, and bring that acknowledgement, that recognition, and the presence of your conscious free will to that, and turn that energy up across all the timelines into this now moment. And you can start to create what they call Mandela effects. So imagine if you could go like all the times and all the people that you connected within the prisons, and you were going there with your light, but it might have been dimmed down because you didn't fully realize who you are. But now you do. So you're consciously going to bring all of those moments into this now moment, and just say, I bring my free will to turning that up forward, and allowing all of those people around me to see that as a remembrance of who they truly are as well, despite the circumstance, despite their behavior and the things that have happened, which has all been conditioning put upon this planet, and we've made it the human condition and thought that we are at fault. No, we have a virus, you know, we have an illness, we have something that has been not even originated on this planet, that has been brought into this field, and we often take it on and think it's our fault and we've got to work through it and heal it. No, we only need to see the truth of it. So you can see the truth of who you are now and go through your entire life, take that all the way through the timeline, turn all of that up, and you are creating shifts and changes for those people in their lives and those environments at a whole different level.
That sounds lovely. That really feels like heart, like, because like I, you know, being an 1111 and all nines and all of these different labels and what have you, it's like, is always my intention. How can I be of service to myself and to those around me, wherever I am each day? And, you know, I have my own little mantras that I say, and, you know, I go to sleep at night going through all the gratitude of what I've done through the day or who I've met. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm so thankful for my lovely bed and all the things. But it's just like little positive things that you can wake up to. And, you know, like today's a nice sunny day, I can hear a little bird chirping out there, and like, so I'm so blessed that I can see and hear and all of these things. And you know, it's just simple things that you do, but it affects your vibration, doesn't it? Instead of like listening to something on social or television and is not in alignment, if you like, and then you sort of carry that energy into the night with you when you go to sleep, don't you? Whereas if you go to sleep on a positive and you wake on a positive, it's just makes a difference to your day.
Yeah, I can understand that perspective, and things will change for you, where you'll start to understand the power of your being as you remember more, that even if you watch something that's a bit dissonant and doesn't really fit with who you are, it will no longer have an effect on you. You will shift the resonance of that for that show, and for the others, how they receive it. And as you're sharing, one of the greatest things that I'm feeling could be of benefit for people at this time is there is a lot of people like ourselves that have, had quite a lot of experience and wisdom and incredible experiences over so many years. And in that time, especially in early days, it was so hidden and, under the carpet that you couldn't even speak about things. So, there's a lot of time, can you see, where you weren't seen and recognized for who you are. And then even with time now, as we get older, a lot of the younger generation do not see the wisdom that is held within those who are a little older and have been through life experience. Wisdom is only born of experience. Knowledge is accumulated, just like you accumulate books on a shelf, and we just put books into ourselves and go, oh, look how wise I am. No, that's not wisdom. Wisdom is when you've read those books and applied that into your life and actually tuned and then received your own insight. That's wisdom. That's authentic to who we are. And you can't have that unless you've had life experience. So if we could gift ourselves just the time and the presence to say, I see who I am. I acknowledge all the places in which others could not see me. They couldn't recognize me. They couldn't receive me. And in fact, they probably even fought against me or tried to put me down or shut me down. But that's okay, because I see who I am. And then go back through the timeline from the beginning, from when you were incepted within the womb, and share that energy. It will shift something in this now moment, so that and change the frequency of all of those experiences, not just for yourself but for others as well. And I see that a lot for a lot of women, particularly. I don't necessarily have a lot of men that come into my field and the work that I do. But even these men, they just feel like they're invisible these days. And it's really important. We cannot be seen unless we see ourselves. We cannot be acknowledged and received by others unless we really see that within ourselves, because we've got to hold that vibration to attract it from others. And I really feel this is a big gift that we can gift ourselves. No one else can give it to us.
And do you find with the little ones now, I like, so many of them can see and sense and see things, and it's fabulous with the younger ones. You just know that they're picking up on things. So are you finding that more and more now?
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, only just yesterday I was walking along the Noosa River, which we were talking about before we're getting on here, and there was this beautiful little baby, and as soon as she saw my friend and my friend, she's just like walking joy, she just lit up. And so we went over and said hello, and of course she hasn't got words yet, or not a lot of words, but she spoke volumes, because the transmissions, the telepathy that they have, I came away from that short few minutes of interacting with her and just going, oh, I feel like I need to integrate just how much she shared with me. And, you know, and it really lifts your hearts, because you see it's because of the work we've done. Now these young ones can come in pure, and it doesn't matter if their parents, you know, are not fully aware and awakened. They will be able to find the ones that they can connect into and receive that. Or, you know, and that's what I used to do with nature. You know, my parents really struggled with me as a child. They didn't know what to do with me, so they were always trying to farm me off to the relatives and go on holidays to get away from me. And you know, and so I had a lot of independence, and I was constantly in the bush. Like, I just, because the bush, the trees, the plants, the animals, they were my friends, my family. So I felt so much love from them that I may not have felt within my family. And it's not that my family didn't love me, they just didn't know how to deal with this being that came through, that experienced life in a completely different way, and, you know, would often speak out and go, you know, why is this coming through the mouth of this child? And we're seeing that a lot with children now. So they will have the same thing. They'll have nature, but there's more of us now to support them. Yeah, there's more of us to say, hey, it's okay. And even if it's just passing in the park for a moment, go, yeah, we see you, little being. Thank you. You're not a lot of human in you, but
not yet.
Start energy through. But thank you for being here.
It's also the same with the animals as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've always been an animal person anyway. I mean, I just love animals, but you just know that animals just come up to you, and, you know, I suppose they see you, or that they're aware of your vibration.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've always been very connected with animals, and all different types of animals. I don't have fear of animals. So, you know, we've got some pretty good snakes over here. And
haven't you just?
And
your spiders?
Yeah, spiders. Yes, I'm not a great fan of ticks and leeches. You know, I've had quite a few on me at times, and I've really tried to develop a relationship with them so that I can receive their medicine without them having to bite me. But yeah, you know, so many people are afraid of animals, and which then they don't realize they are afraid of their own power that animal represents. You know, so snakes and serpent is all about that feminine energy and creation energy, and you know, it's incredible. Same as spiders and the creational web, the creational mother. And you know, I've actually got some great stories around one of the women that came walking with me. I used to do down at a retreat we had in Hunter Valley. I used to do walks, bush tucker walks and medicine and that sort of thing just about every day. And she came for a walk this day, and I just noticed that she was just on edge. And so when I asked her about it, she said, look, I really love nature. I love being out for walk. But I heard you speaking about snakes earlier, and I am just so afraid of snakes. So I'm finding that it's just shutting me down, and I'm not being able to be present to anything else because this fear's taking over. And so I asked her, do you want to work with that? And she said, oh, I'd love to be free of that fear. But she honestly did not know how she could do it. So we kept walking, and I was walking up front and she was a bit further back. And next thing, this baby snake, I just asked for the land to be able to bring a healing. And this snake came out across the path. It stopped there for us. I stopped, I walked back to her and I said, are you ready? And so she started at a distance, just connecting and seeing it at a distance, and just keep breathing through and bringing love to the fear within her. And we kept walking until she could connect up, until she got really up close and personal. And I could see the snake responding to her and like, you know, tasting the air around her. And then she just burst into tears, and that fear just completely released out of her body, because she then realized how afraid that snake was of her, but it was willing to be there to provide the medicine for her. And in that, the snake just turned around and went off. And then, you know, she said, "Oh, was that poisonous?" I go, "Oh, yes, a pretty poisonous one, that one." And she goes, "Why aren't you afraid of it?" And I said, "Because you can just see the medicine that they can be. They are wanting to work with us. They are wanting us to remember who we are." And since then, you know, she has just done so many walks. It's just changed her whole reality, because she can now be out in nature and not be in a constant state of fear.
And I know, talking with friends this week, she was saying she had a massive spider. She'd never ever seen one so big. And, you know, they removed it and put it out. But it's the fact that, you know, like, well, I don't mind spiders being in my place as long as they stay up in the corner, so to speak. But it's when they suddenly start running, the bigger ones, it freaks you out.
Yes, I can relate that to a few times, because we got the hunting spiders. Yeah, they often will just hang out in the corner, and we just grew up with them as children. They were always on the walls, and we just knew where they were. And if you went down the passageway, you kind of just went down the other side of the night. And yeah, I had one, Frank, and he lived in the far corner in my bedroom, which was fine. And then one night I actually woke up in the middle of the night feeling this presence so strongly near me that I just had to turn the light on. I turned the light, and there's Frank, and he's sitting on the bedside table, and he's reaching out like he's about to step across.
Oh my God.
And I've caught him, and I go, "Frank, what are you doing?" And then he quickly said, and so I had to tell him, "No, back up the wall." And he went back up a little bit. "No, up in the corner. No, back into that corner." And it fully responded to me. He went back into that corner. The next day he tried the same. So after that, he was put outside. Because there's nothing worse than waking up with a spider on top of you. And I've certainly had, especially when I was working with one of my totems, which is, of all things, a centipede. You know, everyone else seems to have, you know, bears or kangaroo or wedge-tail eagles. No, my totem's centipede. And at the time when I was working with the centipede medicine, it came and visited me several times. Somehow they would get into my house, and I literally woke up one night with it tapping on the top of my forehead, and I've woken like from my pillow, and there it is. And of course I freaked out, but then I had to pick it up, like catch it without getting stung, and put it outside. It came back in 3 times. And I would find it another time. I found it was like crawling up my leg. It didn't sting me, but it was showing me I had to release my fear of my own totem. Because how can I walk with and carry the medicine of the centipede if I'm fearful of it? Because it will sting me if I need to receive, you know, a good lesson. Yeah. But if I'm in harmony with it, it will only ever look after me. And this is some of what we've forgotten about our deep connection with the animal world and all of it.
Well, I didn't even know centipede sting. Not that I see many anyway over here, but oh wow. Oh, it's been absolutely fascinating and an absolute delight to have you on the show, and all your sharings has been really lovely. I've so enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. It's been a privilege, like I said, and thank you so much for inviting me in for your very last one. And I can see that we've got some others ready to come in as well. So I'm looking forward to connecting.
Yeah. Well, thank you once again. It's been an absolute delight, and for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom. So you're a blessing. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, Jeffrey.